Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Mega Man Network Transmission. In the last part we took care of the waterworks and got ourselves the double jump chip in the process, and between parts as usual I grinded up to 5 Iceman chips as well as 5 Ice Slashers, because like I mentioned, even though I don't like the Iceman chip that much, Ice Slasher itself is great. But before we go into the next stage, I want to come back into Higsby's shop, buy another unlocker, and get ourselves the wood armor because we're coming up on a place with a lot of wood-type viruses. Buying an unlocker or two should just become customary for you if you're playing along between stages, because I think by and large, every level in the game has at least one purple mystery data. Some later ones have 2, there's at least one that has 3, and there's one you're going to want at least 4 because there's one before the entrance to it. So now we're back at Numberman's shop, because I want to buy a power-up just to get Mega Man's Buster closer to being its full power. Again, by the end game, chips are still going to be really good, but you can replace a lot of your attacks with just a fully attack-leveled, fully charge-leveled Mega Buster, because its charge rate and damage gets ridiculous by the end of it. And that does mean to me that, in some regards, this game's difficulty curve is kind of unsatisfying, at least if you know what you're doing with it, where it starts really hard with Fireman and Gutsman, but then kind of nullifies out during this middle portion. By the end game, it gets pretty easy. Whereas I usually like my platformers to start at about a 4 out of difficulty and end at like a 7 to 8, barring super challenges. I'd say this game starts at like a 7 and then gets down to be like a 3. But again, that's partially on repeat playthroughs when you also have knowledge about what battle chips are really good, where you can get them and all that. On a first run, this game is radically different. Next up, though, we're going to be heading into Yai's house to take care of the garden computer. I love this song. Lan, you're late. Is that the way you greet me? And I came all this way to help you. Alright, don't worry about it. Yai, what's the situation? I know why the computer's malfunctioning. A Navi? Huh? How'd you know? That's right, exactly. The Navi, the guy who came to check my garden's computer, Needleman. We were right, Lan. Yeah, it's that Navi hacking program. Mega Man, you gotta stop Needleman from ruining the garden. No problem. Alright, the garden computer is, I think, the stage the game wants you to go to first out of this core set, because I think it's the easiest platforming-wise, while also having the easiest to deal with enemies. Because while you're still going to have some Metars to deal with here and there, a lot of what we're going to be seeing is the Killer Plant line from Battle Network 2 right there. They have the Tree Bomb 1 battle chip, which is a wood elemental bomb type attack that you throw, and after a few seconds after it lands on the ground, a wood tower spurts out. But you don't even need the wood tower effect. It's good just for throwing at enemies, because I think even by the time you reach a Tree Bomb 2, which you can grab in this level, you can get up to 100 damage just straight up in an enemy's face, which is enough to kill a lot of things. That was a popper enemy. They will go up and down and shoot at you. They are a bit interesting in that they have 2 battle chips. The Stone Body battle chip we've had for a while now, but they're also the earliest. I think you can get 3-way battle chips that you start the game with a couple of them, but you can get more there. It's just a 3-way buster. It's not very remarkable. Here's one of the main gimmicks. Platforms that fall, you can use repair in this stage. Pretty good effect. Otherwise, enemies you can find in this particular part of the level. Fishies and mushies. Whereas in the mainline games, mushies attacks will only go off on grass panels. In this, it's just an area of effect around them. So if you're keeping a good distance, you don't need to worry about them at all. I fell down that pit for a specific reason. I want to stay on the cyber bars, and I couldn't reach them from there anymore. There is a blue mystery data up here that I want to grab, so I was figuring, it's worth it just to take the death and get the Zenny from other things on the way back here. Here it is, and here we got an HP memory. Worth it. Also, very minor thing. I'm glad Network Transmission does this thing that the RPGs do as well. Whenever you grab an HP memory, of course, your maximum HP increases by 20. However, it also increases your current HP by 20, so you're not losing out on that gain in the case you're low on HP and close to death. Some other games probably wouldn't have kept that, and that would have been really annoying if they didn't here. So here in Garden Comp 2, we got 3 new enemies, I believe. One we'll talk about down the line. One right there was a Killer Weed. They had Tree Bomb 2s. I'm grinding those out between stages, I believe, even. We got Popper 2s here, which are the same thing. One thing I forgot to mention about Poppers, they are shielded unless you hit them in the head. But you can get a new battle chip at this point from Popper 2s. It's just very hard to get, given their placements. And that's the barrier battle chip, which barrier's a lot more valuable here in the platformers than it is in the RPGs, I find, because shielding yourself from one hit with how bosses work here is a lot more valuable. And so if you want to, I'd recommend grinding that out, especially if you have some fire-type swords or chips that can take them out pretty easily. That's the guard chip right there, by the way. Guard in this game works closer to how it worked in Battle 2 Beyond, where when it blocks an attack, it'll actually reflect it back at the enemy as a shockwave, which is decently useful in some boss fights, but it's not reliable enough in the long term for me, I find, especially the amount of uses it has is at max. I'd rather just go for pure damage. Here's the third new enemy, and it's a returning one from Classic. It's the Gabioals. They actually can be destroyed by your Mega Buster in this one, though. Same with basically any attack. I just used Gutsman because it was the easiest way to hit that one, and for beating them, you actually get stone bodies. That mystery data I just picked up right there is very important because that was a power-up, so my Buster is almost at max attack efficiency. Not charge efficiency, but attack efficiency at the least. And here's the actual returning platforming mechanic from Needleman's own stage in Mega Man 3. We got spikes that come out of the ceiling. They are an instant kill. They do decent damage, though, from memory, so be careful. With that said, as long as you're, like, not rushing through them, they're not going to be too much of a problem. If anything, that last one's the only one that ever really hits me consistently. This stage was weird on my first playthrough, though, because Needleman is a net navi I had already seen before my first playthrough, because by the time I played this through and got this far, the second season of the anime had already come out in dub, if memory serves, and Needleman's a much more active character there. By and large, any net navis that were made for this game only show up in their stages, and that's it. Needleman in the anime was the net navi of Miss Mari's twin sister from the last game, who was a villain in the anime for a lot of reasons. And it was just weird seeing that difference there. So we just waited around there for a moment to get double jump because I never like going for this mystery data without it because it's just a dangerous enough jump that I'm scared of dying there. And now I'm going to actually wait again to get the battle chips I actually want to use for Needleman himself. I would recommend any fire type chips you can get, but I especially recommend Fireman and Flame Arm because those are just very good at a distance in this fight coming up. But any program advances as well you've already figured out, bring those in as well. Life Sword 1 especially can be pretty good, but I also recommend Ice Slasher because, again, it's just a very good battle chip. Thinking about it, I think I actually prefer, like, exactly half of the Navi weapons over the Navi chips, so I guess they kind of balance it out well in that regard.
Cut, slice, chop, sharp, sharper! Plant machines! Move! Make a sharper design for this garden. Cut and slice!
Cut it out, Needleman!
What? You gonna try and stop me, huh? Don't try any funny business or I'll have to stab you! Psha!
Huh, this guy's a mean one, alright? It's because he's gone crazy. But anyway, here he comes. Mega Man, you gotta stop. Battle routine set. I think they forgot a word there. Execute. So like I said, Needleman's Wood Elemental. Because I have Fireman, Needleman's not going to have much of a chance to do anything. Because bosses in this game have a much shorter invincibility period after they take heavy damage compared to the mainline RPGs. So you can just stun lock most bosses in this game with good use of Navi chips or strong battle chips otherwise. I'll talk more about his attacks when we get to the refight in a few moments, although you actually have seen every attack already now that I look at it. And for beating him that way, we got Needle Cannon, which is an alright battle chip. I do kind of prefer Needleman's Navi chip, though.
You guys. What's this? What's going on?
Is he back to normal? Maybe. Yai, is Needleman's operator there?
He's here. What should he do?
His PET's probably working again. Tell him to jack out right away and turn off the power.
Jack out?
You did it! The garden's control computer's back online.
Thanks, Lan.
Well, Lan, what a relief to get that over and done with. You got that right. The garden seems okay now. Okay, Mega Man, jack out. Gotcha. That stage might have an annoying jump or enemy here and there, but ultimately I do think it is the easiest out of that set. Helps that you're guaranteed to have at least a fireman ship of some sort by the time you get here if you did well enough in that boss fight, so you just have a guaranteed weakness, compared to some of the other ones where you might need to look for some weaknesses. Thanks to you and Mega Man, my garden's management computer is back to normal. Thanks again. But when I relaxed and took a good look at my garden, I decided that Needleman's design isn't all that bad either. Who would have thought? I included a small token of my appreciation. And for that, we get a bronze fist. Hey, I'll take that. Lan, you aren't forgetting to upgrade Mega Man, are you? Power-ups are particularly important for upgrading your Mega Buster. Power-ups can be used to improve the Buster's attacking, repeat firing, and charging, which lets you release a charge shot by holding the button. And yet you didn't include a power-up like any other time you do that kind of email in the series. Thanks, Dad. So, Needle Cannon fires off 8 needles in a row. It's good for certain viruses, specifically elect ones just because of its wood element, but I don't tend to use it nearly as much as Needleman's Navi chip, which now we're gonna go after. Notably, bosses in this game don't get a lot of health. I think ultimately the highest it gets is 1,000 for certain bosses, and because some chips and program advances do several hundred, you can chip off health pretty quickly in this one. Okay, Needleman's attacks, we saw all of them during the battle itself. He starts off mostly just using 2, either firing needles forward at a certain height that you can actually slide under pretty easily. He can also use that while jumping. When he does that, they go on to spread. He can just sort of jab the spikes on his body forward a little bit. That would be the equivalent of like a one-tile attack forward in the main RPGs. But when he's low on health, he'll jump up high in the air and send a spread of needles all around him. The only safe space is beneath him. Overall, even if you don't bring in fire chips, Needleman isn't that threatening of a boss fight. But he's got a very good Navi chip. In particular, his Navi chip is the later of the 3 attacks he uses, where he just sends spikes downwards when he jumps up in the air, but he sends them out at like 3 or 4 different trajectories in his Navi chip, and that gets to be very good for taking out masses of virus or even hitting a lot of Navis. Also, there's our library check-in. That's how we're looking at the moment. 51 out of the 137 chips. And after doing that, here's what my particular folder is looking like. I farmed out some Tree Bomb 1 and 2s over in Needleman stage. I got him maxed out as well. It's come together. Needle Cannon I have in there just to sort of have it. I don't really use that too much, but I might as well in the case I need it. For now, it's time for us to head back to Higsby's, buy another unlocker, and then head after our next stage, and I recommend picking up the Elect armor because, well, we've already gone through a water, fire, and wood stage. It's time for the Elect stage of the set. Welcome to the Shopping Network, which is a level with another song I really like. When this game's soundtrack goes off, it goes hard. So this is the shopping district Cyberworld Higsby mentioned. Testing? Testing, huh? Lag, can you hear me, huh? Higsby? I'm using an industrial class line from Higsby's to access your location, huh? Lan, I figured out the cause of the disturbance, huh? Navi running amok caused the computers to act up, huh? Thought so. A Navi running amok. Brightman and Navi from one of the shopping district stores suddenly went crazy and took over the computers to use their power on lighting, huh? Higsby, we'll go into the cyberworld and find that Navi. Let's go, Mega Man. All right. Please find him, huh? This stage isn't too bad on the platforming. I just don't recommend coming in here even until you've done Needleman first, because Brightman as a boss fight is a little bit of a nightmare without certain setups to go. And here we actually got an enemy from Battle Network 2. These are the Sparkies. In this game, they actually have 2 different movement patterns. They can either just kind of go up and down like the fishies, or they will go along an entire platform, sort of like a spark from Mario World. We also got the Magnackers here. The way they work is their mag bombs will be shot out and then just kind of bounce along the ground, but if you touch them, it's an immediate stun effect, so watch out for that. Bringing Elect armor in here is recommended, because otherwise, well, with the amount of Elect viruses in here, you're going to be taking a lot of damage. We also got bunnies and gabioles, so be careful of them as well. Not a bad place to get some zap rings, though, if you want to get some of those ready before going into the Waterworks computer, because there's a lot more early in this stage than there are in Den area. This stage does kind of start to make a problem a little more obvious with this game's level design, at least when it comes to getting virus chips, in that there's a lot of cases where you'll curl around level design to reach where an enemy is for like a mystery data and all that. And depending on how the level design is curved, it's almost impossible on a first run to reach that virus in such a way that getting their chip in a high busting rank is possible. Particularly if it's an area you need to backtrack back and forth through. There's a tough bunny, by the way. That's a bunny 2, and that is the Zapring 2 battle chip right there. Good to have that. There's another power-up, so our Buster's even getting closer and closer to being max. I believe this is where we get charged up to a point where it's actually good. Getting your charge up to 4 makes it reach full charge very quickly to the point where you can just start relying on this for a lot of the weaker viruses, no problem, especially if you already have your attack stat at like 3+. Never Transmission is a game where the Mega Buster starts out complete garbage, but by the end game, it's arguably better than most battle chips for normal enemies at the least. Save your battle chips for larger enemies or boss fights at that point. Also, looking at this, I think I actually got the name of the virus wrong earlier. I think the first variation of this virus is the Mag-Neaker. I think these are the Mag-Mackers. I just always get their name confused. They only appear, I think, in this computer, so make sure to get them because they have the Mag Bomb 2 chip. Mag Bomb 3 chip isn't until a later level. They tend to pile a lot of the V1s and 2s into the same level, sometimes even the V3s. It really depends on the type of virus and the amount of that stage there are. And even then, sometimes they'll just throw the third variant of a virus into an unrelated level down the line for no reason. Besides just not wanting you to throw into that much damage at this point. Getting battle chips is surprisingly easy in this game once you get your Buster high enough, though, because it's just a matter of knowing where the enemies are. I think by the time, getting ahead of ourselves here, by the time I actually have to go do a chip grind before the final boss, I think I'm only missing like a handful of chips, like 15, 20, somewhere abouts there, and that's very quick to get. Be careful with these lasers. I don't think they're instant kill, but they certainly do enough damage to be afraid of. But once you reach them, you're almost at the end of that level anyway. This is not a very long or even eventful level. But I'm still going to take a moment to sit right here and get myself certain chips because Brightman is an annoying boss unless you have wood chips ready that can get through his problem parts, so to speak.
More light! More!
What's up with this guy?
Well, you're pretty rude, aren't you? Show some manners. I'm Brightman! A shining man, the most handsome guy in all of the cyber worlds. Ha!
What a vain fool. Megaman. Brightman, stop messing with those computers.
Stop, but this cyber world is still too dark. I'm just trying to lighten up the place a little.
Dang, he's gonna short circuit the entire district. Let's stop him, Lan. Alright, Megaman, battle routine set. Execute. Brightman is a problem because whenever he's doing that little come at me gesture, he's actively put up a counter shield that will block the first attack and then he'll immediately counter with his own attack, be it a tracking laser ball or a laser straight at you that you have to kind of dash under, but it will try to curb for you. With that said, Needleman's a pretty good chip for this fight because if it doesn't pierce his shield, at least it doesn't trigger his counter stance nearly as easily. If you're trying to go more all out, you might want to shoot high to try to activate his counter without getting the attack go off. He can also do a very short range kick. That fight I dislike. It's the entire reason I tend to go after this one last out of this set for the most part. Well, sort of last.
Huh? What was I doing? Ugh.
Wow, he sure calmed down in a hurry. Like a light bulb going out. Lan, are you okay, huh? Higsby, that Navi's PET should be working again, so tell the operator, jack out Brightman and turn off the PET's power. Okay, huh?
Jacking out.
Whew. Nice work, huh? The computers are back to normal, huh? All right, Lan. Everything looks fine now. Okay, time to jack out. Wonder what Higsby's gonna give us, hmm? Well, let's find out, why don't we? He's gonna give us an email, because we always get one after a stage like this. All right, Higsby, what do you got for us? But first, let's collect chips. Special chip collection. Are you trying to collect battle chips? If you keep meeting a powerful enemy that you can't defeat, jack out and go to places you've been before to collect useful chips. But be careful, you can only carry a certain amount of each. If your folder shows a red number for a chip, you can't carry anymore, as I've already covered. Lan, thank you for your help. Thanks to you, the disturbance didn't affect me very much at all, huh? I'm sending you this on behalf of all inhabitants of the shopping district, huh? Thank you for shopping at Higsby's, huh? And we get a free barrier battle chip. Not too bad, I don't use it too much on this playthrough, but on a first playthrough it comes in handy a lot. Now for us to go take care of Brightman's refight in the battle simulator. And even though I don't really like to use either of his battle chips, I'm still gonna at least max out his Navi chip. It's also, I think, the first fight we've gotten a non-S rank for on our first time through. So, I think the only attack he didn't really get to show off on the first run, and I forget if he does on this run either, is he's got a weapon where he'll throw the 2 plugs on his head at you, and they will drain HP from you. It doesn't come up too often, and thankfully I got Needleman here twice, so I don't need to worry too much about it, but be careful of that all the same. For beating him, where you can get 2 chips, the first chip we got was a Remo plug, or a remote plug. That is just a plug that goes forward and does decent damage. Whereas Brightman himself works a little bit like his weapon did in Classic. He emits a bright light, which is meant to be flash stopper, essentially, that can stun enemies. It doesn't do a lot of damage, though, so I don't tend to use it for that alone. I think the stun effect might work for making some vulnerability points stay open longer on viruses, but I prefer not to use it myself. But with that, I'm gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 6, now that we've taken care of these 2 stages, we're gonna go take care of some more before seeing what happens next. See you guys then.